For most of us, buying a home is the single biggest financial move we'll ever make. But how do you know the person handling that massive loan is actually qualified and, trustworthy? Well, that's exactly why the SAFE Act of 2008 was created. This law completely changed the mortgage game to protect people like you and me. So today, we're going to break down exactly how it works.
To really get why this law was so important, you have to picture what things were like before 2008. Seriously, it was the Wild West of mortgages. In one state, a loan officer might need tons of training, but you could cross the state line and find that almost anyone could hang up a shingle. This crazy patchwork of rules, or a lot of the time no rules at all, left homebuyers in a really vulnerable spot.
And that lack of oversight, it wasn't just a small problem. It was a key ingredient in the recipe for the 2008 financial crisis. Out of that chaos came a massive piece of legislation called the Dodd-Frank Act, which set out to reform the entire financial system.
And tucked inside that giant law was our focus for today, the SAFE Act. It was a laser-focused solution designed to bring order and accountability right where it was needed most, to the people originating our mortgages.
Okay, so what is the SAFE Act? The official name is a mouthful, the Secure and Fair Enforcement for Mortgage Licensing Act. You'll also hear it called Regulation H, but what it all boils down to is pretty simple. Its mission was to create one single, high, uniform standard for every mortgage professional everywhere in the country. No more state-by-state guesswork.
The act really had three main goals. First, create that uniformity by setting national standards. Second, beef up consumer protection by making sure loan originators are actually qualified and ethical. And third, cut down on fraud by creating a national registry to track every single professional in the business.
So who is this law actually aimed at? Well, it zooms in on one very specific, very important professional, the mortgage loan originator, or MLO for short. This is the person you're working with directly. They're the one taking your application, offering you loan options, and negotiating the terms. It doesn't matter if they're a mortgage broker or a loan officer at your local bank. If they are getting paid to put your loan together, the SAFE Act applies to them. So, if the old way was the Wild West, what does it take to become an MLO now? Let me tell you, the game has completely changed. The days of just needing a pulse and a business card are long, long gone. First up, you've got to go back to school, so to speak. Every single person who wants to be an MLO has to complete at least 20 hours of approved coursework. And this isn't about just checking a box. It's some serious training on the ins and outs of the entire industry.
And that education is super specific. We're talking 3 hours on federal law, 3 on ethics, and get this, 2 full hours on non-traditional mortgages. You know, the exact kind of tricky loans that caused so much trouble back in the day. The other 12 hours are electives that round out their knowledge.
And after all that coursework comes the big test. It's not enough to just sit through the classes. You have to prove you actually learned something by passing a tough national exam with a score of 75% or better. And the stakes are high. If you fail 3 times in a row, you're locked out from trying again for a full 6 months.
But wait, there's more. The vetting doesn't stop there. The SAFE Act requires a deep dive background check. They're looking for any past license revocations. They do a 7-year look back for most felonies. And if you have a felony involving fraud or money laundering, that's a lifetime ban. They even do a full credit report review because, hey, the person handling your finances should probably be financially responsible themselves.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the hurdles that MLOs have to jump through. But what does all of this actually mean for you, the homebuyer? How does this all translate into real-world protection? For starters, this law has teeth. Real, sharp, financial teeth. A single violation can cost an MLO or their company over $36,000. That is not a slap on the wrist. It's a massive incentive to follow the rules to the absolute letter. So let's bring it all home. What's the bottom line for you as a homebuyer? When you're sitting at that closing table, about to sign mountains of paperwork, how has this law made your life better and safer? At the end of the day, it means you can have real confidence that the person guiding you through your biggest purchase is educated, has been tested, and has been thoroughly vetted. It means high standards are the norm, no matter what state you live in. And it means there's real accountability. The SAFE Act created a much safer, more transparent mortgage market, and that protects your investment and helps make sure we don't repeat the crisis that started this all.